Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
This card is busted. I'm your host, Commander Claw. Welcome back to another video. We are in the world of Edge of Eternity spoiler season. And just to get started, this card is called the Endstone. The reason why it is busted because it's 4 abilities on one card. And it is an artifact. So that means it's colorless and can go in multiple decks. So I will begin reading the card's ability. The Endstone for 7 mana. Legendary artifact, mythic rare. It says, whenever you play a land or cast a spell, draw a card. At the beginning of your end step, your life total becomes half your starting life total, rounded up. So first, whenever you play a land, that means you play 1 land per turn. Fetch lands and tutoring lands and having them enter the battlefield and landfall triggers do not trigger this. So you only can play 1 land per turn. Unless you have a spell or a permanent or a card that says you can play 1 extra land per turn, 2 extra lands per turn. Something like that. Then it says whenever you cast a spell, draw a card. You do that often. And guess what? Players are always trying to cast multiple spells. And you know it. There's mechanics that allow you to cast multiple spells for free, pretty much. So, the second ability where it says at the beginning of your end step, your life total becomes half your starting life total, rounded up. This is 2 things. If you are below 20 life, you will gain life to make it back to 20 life. Remember, we're playing EDH, so your starting life total is 40. Now, if your life total is more than 20, so it's 21 and up, you will go down to 20. So that will be life loss. So with those 2 things being said, life gain and life loss, we have 2 different type of triggers that spells that we want to happen in our decks, and we can get payoffs on that. So without further ado, I'm going to let y'all know that you can skip to any part of this video. I have chapter outlines of where you might want to go or might be interested in specific sections. So make sure you like this, share this with your friends if you've seen the Endstone at all being spoiled. And I'm going to just go through all these reasons why this card is busted. And I'm going to start with my top 3 recommended commanders for the Endstone. So my number 1 commander for the Endstone will be an upgrade to your Abzan armor Precon. Okay, we have Betor's Ancestor's Voice. For 2 and Abzan colors, 3/5 legendary spirit dragon. It has flying, lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to 1 other target creature you control equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Return up to 1 target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost a turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, first of all, if you have the Endstone, you need to stack your triggers. Second of all, this commander does life gain or life loss, which is perfect for the Endstone because it does one of the 2. So depending on your situation, if you are gaining life, you get to add +1/+1 counters equal to the amount of life you gained. So, for example, if you're at 15 life and you trigger Endstone, you will gain 5 life to get you to 20 life of a 40 starting life total in an EDH match. So that means you get to place 5 +1/+1 counters on a creature. That's pretty good. Now, if you lost life, let's say you were at 40, okay, 40 life, and the end-step triggers for the Endstone, you got to go down to 20 life. You lost 20 life. Now you get to reanimate a creature from your graveyard equal to the amount of life you lost. And what do you know? Maybe you have an Eldrazi in your graveyard, and you get to put it onto the battlefield for free, and you're at 20 life. Not bad. These are just great examples. And if you don't know, Eldrazi's, their mana cost is usually 12 or 13 mana, something extraordinary. So Endstone is a great upgrade to your Abzan armor Precon. So my next commander is Hope Estheim from the Final Fantasy set. It was super popular because supposedly it made mill viable. That is up to you and your pod to decide if it's actually worth it. But in my opinion, I think it makes it interesting. I can't put that verdict out yet. But the reason why I recommend Endstone for Hope, because of the colors. White and blue. That is Azorius. And this is a 2/2 creature, legendary human wizard with lifelink, and says, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So, with the Endstone, you need life total of 19 or less, or 19 to 1 really, in order to gain life, to make it to 20. The reason why I'm recommending it is because these two colors are known to be very manipulative, especially blue. So look, at the beginning of your end step, we've seen Ishitola. She's a new commander that gives you an additional end step. The end step is a thing. And also you can double up triggers, which is known to do often in blue. But also, where Endstone gets pretty crazy is with other artifacts or other cards, you can double the life you gain. So yeah, if you had, as an example, if you had 5 life, the Endstone triggers, giving you 15 life, and there's a card out there or a spell that says double your life total, yeah, you can gain additional 15 life and be at 30 life. Then, if Hope Esteem triggers, your opponent really milled, or actually what? Each opponent milled 30 cards instead of 15. So what I like about the Endstone, I haven't gotten really in depth, but there's ways to manipulate your life gain, especially in these colors. So this is a kill on sight commander. If you never played against Rowan Scion of War, you have been very fortunate because it is a very salty commander. For 1 in Rakdos, 4/2 body, legendary human wizard, it has, or she has menace. She says tap, spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So let me tell you what commander players do with this commander. They purposely lose life so they can cast all these extreme Rakdos spells, black spells, or red spells for pretty much either 1 red, 1 black, or double black, double red, depending on how they feel or whatever's in their hand and whatever insidious thoughts that they have and they put into their deck building prowess. Trust me, it's not fun going against this commander. However, if you are playing this commander, I do recommend Endstone because you've had times where you played your deck and it's been hit or miss. You've got to cast all those spells or the right sequencing of spells, and you know what? You just had an opponent that just says counter, stifle, or just removed your commander before you even had a chance to even activate her ability. Because guess what? It says activate only as a sorcery. So there's so many ways to stop her, but if she's not stopped, it gets ugly. So the reason why I'm recommending Endstone is if you miss, you get to gain your life back and go back to 20 life. So not bad. I know 7 mana, I believe, for the Endstone is the casting cost. But what's 7 mana when you've been casting other spells for pretty much at a lower CMC or for free? So the Endstone, right? We're still talking about gaining life. That means we're at 19 or 1 life. And now that I'm even saying it, if you have a card that says you can't lose the game for having 0 or less life, and you're at like -50, and you gain life to back to 20, oh my gosh, you've gained 70 life. That would be really interesting. And also, Let me know in the rules, can you be at negative 50 life? Or is it just 0 and the game's over? I don't know that rule. But anyway, Lathiel and Nykthos Paragon are great commanders to have with the Endstone if you're low on life and you just need to have a haymaker to gain life and get rewarded for that, right? So Lathiel says for 2 in Selesnya, 2/2 body, legendary creature unicorn, life link. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, distribute up to that many +1/+1 counters among any number of other target creatures. Cool. It is boosting the power of your creatures. So hopefully when it gets your turn again, your opponents really can't mess with your creatures because they got +15/+15 distributed. Nykthos, similar, right? 4/6 body for 6 mana, 4 and double white, human soldier, enchantment creature. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. Just powerful creatures, putting +1/+1 counters on your creatures when you are at low life. Ooh. Have you ever played a game where you just need to bring back that one creature at the end of the game, or when the game critical is getting serious, is getting antsy, and you just need to bring back that one creature? Well, the Endstone may help you because these creatures are on a reanimating type of theme. So we got Rodolph, Duskbringer for 5 and a black, 4/4 body, vampire angel, legendary creature, of course. He's got flying, death touch, lifelink. Whenever you gain life, Rodolph gains indestructible until end of turn. But at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 in Orzhov. When you do, return target creature with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. If you gain 5 life, you bring back a 5 CMC creature. Not bad. Ratchet, field mechanic. This is going to do the same thing, except for we're focused on artifacts. For 2 and a white, 2/4 body, legendary artifact creature robot. He's got lifelink and says whenever you gain life, you may convert Ratchet. When you do, return target artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you gain this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, great Reanimator creatures. So look, these two are my honorable mentions for the Endstone when you are gaining life. Let's talk about Gollum Obsessed Stalker. I know if you are watching this video and you have this as your commander, this has to be one of your favorite decks. It's so unique. Okay, Gollum Obsessed Stalker for 1 and a black, 1/1 body, legendary halfling horror, has Skulk. This creature can be blocked by creatures with greater power. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent dealt combat damage this game for a creature by a creature named Gollum Obsessed Stalker loses life equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. So theoretically, you know, it can get funny, but if you hit a player with Gollum and he has Skulk, and you were just happen to be at 1 life for some strange reason, and on your turn at your second main phase, you cast the Endstone, you gain 19 life, going back to 20. Remember, always stack your end-step triggers, right? So the whatchamacallit, Endstone would trigger first, then Gollum, and your opponents would lose 19 life that were dealt damage by Gollum. Kind of a last-minute move, pretty nasty. Next up, we got Shauna, Purifying Blade for green, white, and a blue, 3/3 body, legendary human warrior. She has lifelink. She says at the beginning of your end step, you may pay X. If you do, draw X cards, and X can't be greater than the amount of life you gain this turn. Cool. Even if you gain 5 life, paying 5 mana, 4 mana to draw 4 cards, that's pretty explosive. And remember, even at 20 life points, 19 life points, 16, 15, 10, that's like that danger zone when you're playing the game and players are looking to take you out. So remember when I said you can manipulate how much life you can gain? Well, these cards right here, Phial of Galadriel, the Wind Crystal, and Amoret's Archive, all double your life with these replacement effects. They say if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So if you're at 10 life and the Endstone triggers, that means you will gain 10 life. However, if you have these cards on the battlefield, you will gain an additional 10 life, twice that much. So you would gain 20 life, putting your life total at 30. These are pretty sneaky cards, pretty powerful, and these definitely work with Hope Estheim because guess what? It is an Azorius commander. Artifacts work with Azorius very well, and the Wind Crystal is a white artifact, so it just all goes together. Now, we're on the Drain Life section, right? This is where you want to make your opponents lose the game. I'll talk about a staple. It is Enduring Tenacity for 2 and 2 black, 4/3 body, enchantment creature, Snake Glimmer. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. When Enduring Tenacity dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's an enchantment. Cool. If you don't know, this is pretty much a creature at first. When it dies for whatever reason, it comes back as an enchantment. That is very powerful. It's almost reanimates itself. Yeah, so whenever you gain life, if you gain 10 life, target opponent loses 10 life. Just like that. So with the Endstone, you're just able to drain opponents and you pretty much gain life to get you back to 20. That's a win. Now, I wanted to show some cards that I think are budget bombs with the Endstone that your opponents probably will not see coming. So my favorite one over here is on the left. Viscopa Guildmage for Orzhov colors. 2/2 body. Human wizard. We don't care about the first ability. Tap a 1, white and a black, target creature gains life link until end of turn. Yada yada yada. But tap a white, black, and a generic. Whenever you gain life this turn, each opponent loses that much life. What makes this powerful is you can do this as many times as much mana you have possible to activate this ability. So, let's say you have 6 mana in the requiring colors. You go to your end step with the Endstone, and you're gaining life. Let's take our favorite example. You're at 10 life, you will gain 10 life. Okay? Then you can trigger this activated ability twice, making your opponents lose 20 life. Yeah. Nasty. Game ending scenario. Next up, we got another budget bomb. Y'all probably never even seen this, or it's in your bulk box if you bought the foundation sets. Midnight Snack for 2 and a black is an enchantment. It has raid. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, create a food token. It's an artifact with tap 2, sacrifice this token, you gain 3 life. Then it says, tap a 2 and a black, sacrifice this enchantment. Target opponent loses X life or X is the amount of life you gain this turn. I imagine this scenario being perfect if you play this card early, okay? And it's just sitting on the battlefield. You're getting food tokens, not a big deal. But, when pressure bust pipes, you got the Endstone on the battlefield, and you just gain that life, right? You can drain an opponent's life. Easy as that, just by sacrificing this permanent. Then, additionally, if you wanted to, you could pay 2 mana to sacrifice those food tokens to gain an additional 3 life. Just saying, you can just stack triggers on triggers on triggers and manipulate life loss and life gain. Budget bombs right here. So I have some cards for some hidden tech, right? We're going to start with Villas Broker of Blood. Before you get too excited, it is not budget friendly. I think it's like $10 to $12, something like that. Last time I checked, which was today. For 5 and triple black, 8/8 legendary demon, has flying. Tap a black, pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. We don't care about that. But it says whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So remember, with the Endstone, if you are at 21 or more life, it triggers and you have to go to 20 life. That is loss of life. So let's take the hypothetical situation where you are at 40 life, Endstone triggers, you will go down to 20 life, and if Villas Broker is on the battlefield, that means you will draw 20 cards. Yeah. The only downside of that is this is all at your end step. So, hey, you are pretty much going to discard down to 7 and drop cards into your graveyard. And you probably want to do that in a, mono black theme. Maybe you have cards to do that. I don't know. But you get to reload your hand. Next up, we got Children of Corliss. 1 white mana, 1/1 body, human rebel cleric. Says sacrifice children of Corliss. You gain life equal to the life lost you gain life equal to the life you've lost this turn. Sorry for stuttering. So pretty much I would look at this card as to keeping your life total to where you want it to be above 21 life. That's the way I look at it. If the Endstone is on the battlefield. So in case you don't want to go down to 20 life, hex, you just sacrifice Children of Corliss and stay at the life total you're at. Pretty good card. So we have Well of Lost Dreams. For 4 mana, it's an artifact. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. If you do, draw X cards. So remember, if you're at 19, between 1 and 19 life, you will be gaining life if the Endstone is on the battlefield. Yeah, that's a great way to draw cards and refill your hand. Next up, we got Marina Vendrill's Grimoire. For 5 and a blue, legendary artifact from the Duskmourn set. If you cast it, draw 5 cards. Okay, you have no maximum hand size and don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. So I guess I just answered my question previously. If you have negative 50 life, you are still in the game if you have this type of scenario and this spell on the battlefield. Then it says, whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. So remember, if we're at negative 50 life and the Endstone is on the battlefield and Marina's Vendrill's Grimoire is on the battlefield, we go to 20 life. That is 70 life we just gained. So that means we are drawing 70 cards. Hopefully that's your entire deck. What are we talking about here? Then it also says, whenever you lose life, discard that many cards. Then if you have no cards in hand, you lose the game. Tough scenario, but hey, this is blue. This is a blue artifact card. Any blue commander deck that's running Endstone and Marina's Vendrill's Grimoire, I am confident you are wanting to draw your entire deck. And guess what? If you're drawing your entire deck, you have a high probability of winning the game, even if it's at your end step. Whatever combos you've tried to fish out of your deck, you should have by now. Moving on to multiple land drops. So there are several reasons why I added the first sliver. First of all, the Edge of Eternity set is releasing a bunch of slivers. We've seen the Thrumming Hive pool, the Sliver Overlord. They redid the artwork for that sliver. And now we got the first sliver with a different artwork over here on the right-hand side. Reminds me of the Alien poster back in the day. Super cool. I'm a fan of Alien and Predator. And hopefully they come out with our Universes Beyond with Predator. That would be pretty cool in my opinion. So let's talk about the first sliver. Another reason why I have it on here because it has this ability called Cascade. And the Endstone says whenever you cast a spell, draw a card. So to the first sliver, Woobor colors, all 5 colors, 7/7 body, legendary sliver, itself has Cascade. And Cascade says when you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exile cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Sliver spells you cast have Cascade. So, in general, this is a 5 CMC spell. It has Cascade. So you are going to find a 4 CMC spell or less and cast it for free. And that will trigger the Endstone, drawing you a card. Ironically, sliver spells you cast have Cascade. So every other sliver you play, also including the card itself, will allow you to draw an extra card. So that is literally 2 cards for 1 spell. Yeah. It's going to fill your hand up really quick. The Endstone is busted. Now, moving on to more Cascade commanders. Now, out of all these Cascade commanders, I think for the Endstone to work optimally is going to be in the Zul'Dok Void Gorger, which is the 6 CMC, 7/4 body legendary Eldrazi. It says color spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade. So you get to Cascade twice when you play a 7 CMC colorless spell. So that you'll be drawing 3 cards if the Endstone is on the battlefield. And it's going to be easy to play the Endstone because Eldrazi decks usually focus on mana rocks or mana dorks or other ways to generate mana at an explosive rate, which is 3 or more. So yeah, this is just easy to do. Easy to do. Otherwise, these other 2 Cascade commanders are super popular. They're in Teamer colors. They're Maelstrom Wanderer and Avina the Chaos Bloom. You can find them on EDH Rec. There's over 1,000 decks built with these guys. So check that out over there. I don't want to delve into them too much because I really want to talk about this next popular Precon commander. So Pantlaza, Sun Favorite, is probably the most popular dinosaur commander out there. It's probably equally as popular to Gishath Sun's Avatar. But if you do not know this commander, it has the mechanic called Discover. So let me read Pantlaza Sun Favorite's ability. For 2 Anaya, 4/4 body, legendary creature, dinosaur. Whenever Pantlaza Sun Favorite or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. So let me read what Discover is. Discover is exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value X or less, cast it without paying its mana cost, or put into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So if you decide to cast the card and you have the Endstone on the battlefield, you are casting a spell and you get to draw a card. Now, the reason why I recommend Endstone with Pantlaza, because ironically, this commander is a blink commander, and that's what players do with it. You blink them several times to discover more cards. So if the Endstone is on the battlefield, you get to draw cards every time you discover and decide to cast that card. Yeah, it gets real good. You can reload your hand in Naya colors effectively and efficiently. And I had to put the Curator of Sun's Creation, the creature on the right-hand side here, for 3 in a red, 3/3 body. Whenever you discover again for the same value. This ability triggers only once each turn. There you go. Pantlaza definitely can use the Endstone. So we got to draw more cards, right? What's better to draw a card if you're playing free spells? So we have Frogmite. It's just an example for 4 mana. Anything with affinity for artifacts. Y'all seen those cards out there. Affinity for artifacts, the more artifacts you have, the cheaper the spell costs. If it costs 0 mana and you have the Endstone, you get to draw a card. Also, don't forget about free spells if you have your commander on the battlefield, such as Deflecting Swat. For 2 in a red, if you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for a target spell or ability. So there's a bunch of free spells or other ways to cast spells to trigger the Endstone to draw a card. So I got several reasons why I'm recommending Terminal Velocity in your red colored pip with the Endstone. Okay, Terminal Velocity is for 4 and double red. It is a sorcery. You may put an artifact or creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That permanent gains haste. When this permanent leaves the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its mana value to each creature, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this permanent. First of all, this card is coming from Edge of Eternities, so you can find it with the Endstone. Second of all, instead of paying 7 mana, you pay 6 mana, 4 and double red, to put the Endstone onto the battlefield. Then you will trigger the Endstone first, and whatever your life gain, life loss scenario is, we want that to happen first. Then this triggers, right? This part triggers where at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice is permanent. Okay? Your permanent dies, then guess what? That is the Endstone, and Endstone will do 7 damage to each creature on the battlefield. So it gives the Endstone multiple purpose. It's life gain, life loss, card draw, from playing a land or casting spells. It is a board wipe and a artifact death trigger and a artifact fall trigger because you're putting an artifact onto the battlefield. So y'all can get creative with this. Let me know what commanders probably could use both of these spells. And don't forget, it is red. So I'm thinking Doretti himself is an awesome creature slash legendary commander. You can reanimate artifacts very well with him and efficiently, so don't worry about losing the Endstone. I'm not going to go over these too much. These are just the common cards to cheat artifacts into play. Remember, the Endstone is 7 mana, and there might be a scenario where you need the Endstone at the right time. Master Transmuter, super popular artifact creature card. It does everything artifacts, put the artifacts onto the battlefield. Awesome. Arms Race is another great card to sneak artifacts in. But my favorite is Copper Gnomes. It's an old school card. I have a thing for old school cards. For 2 mana, 1/1 body, tap 4 mana, sack it, choose an artifact card in your hand, and put that artifact card into play. For me, my experience, it sits on the battlefield as a chump blocker. You can block and pay the ability to sack it and to put the artifact into play. Great value. So in the artifact tutor section, I just wanted to show you some more cards that can tutor artifacts. And maybe you need to have these cards in your deck to tutor the Endstone to do whatever scenario. Um, Iron Man, Titan of Innovation. If you don't know him by now, he has the ability Genius Industrialist. You pretty much sacrifice an artifact, and you look for an artifact of 1 mana value greater, right? It's like a birthing pod for artifacts. And you can do that with the Endstone and put it into play. That's great. Kadotha Forge Master, very similar. Search your library for an artifact and put it onto the battlefield. But I really want to talk about Templar Knights. I did not know this card could tutor artifacts until I was just researching. Templar Knight for 1 and a white. It is a 3/1 body, creature, human knight, vigilance. Tap a white, tap 5 untapped, attacking creature you control named Templar Knight. Search your library for a legendary artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. A deck can have any number of cards named Templar Knight. I know you guys are out there with a Templar Knight deck, and you guys are having a blast. Just the fact that 5 of these creatures can be on the battlefield and attacking and tutor an artifact. Yeah, it's mono white, so you're going to be able to find artifacts, whether they're equipments or powerful Endstone artifacts. So 3 more. I'm not going to talk about them way too much either, but Repurposing Bay, if you have color blue in your deck, or Oswald Fiddlebender for if you have white in your deck. But my favorite one here is Magda Brazen Outlaw. Her second ability is so overlooked and underrated. For 1 in a red, 2/1 body, sacrifice 5 treasure tokens, search your library for an artifact card, and put it onto the battlefield. What? You can do that at instant speed. That is crazy. You know how easy it is to make 5 treasure tokens? You do that all the time. This is a no-brainer if you have red in your color pip. So I didn't know Sphinx of the Revelation actually existed. And if you have a energy counters commander, most of them are actually in Jeskai colors. The Endstone and Sphinx of the Revelation is a must include. Okay. For 3 white and blue, you get a 4/5 body Sphinx artifact creature, has flying lifelink, and says whenever you gain life, you get that many energy counters. Tap a white and double blue, tap it, pay X energy counters to draw X cards. So, once again, if you are low on life and you go to 20 life, you're gaining that much life and you get that many energy counters. Think about that's just an explosive energy counter creation. There's not many cards that do that without having to double and create it. So, last ditch effort. I like Sphinx of Revelation. Not bad. And just these are 2 commanders that are energy counters commanders that players have built, and they're super popular. Over 1,000 decks on EDH Rec for these guys. Dr. Madison Lee and Satya Aetherflux right there. So, there's a way when you gain life, you can add a bunch of +1/+1 counters on creatures, but also there's abilities where you can remove counters and you get an additional effect. So let's talk about Cradle Vitality for 3 and a white. It's an enchantment. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1 and a white. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature for each 1 life you gained. awesome. Remember, if you're at 5 life and you have the Endstone, you're going to 20, you gain 15 life. Imagine if you put 15 +1/+1 counters on your commanders, such as Ramos Dragon Engine or Karlov of the Ghost Council, and the favorite Amalia something Aguirre, right? I know I butchered it. But, when she hits 20 power, she's a board wipe. And you want her as a Voltron commander anyway. So I just wanted to show you combination of commanders and cards that work well with the Endstone. And I started thinking, when you read blog posts and blogs, players are saying you can never cast 7 CMC cards. Well, look, not every pod is playing lots of removal or super competitive. You know, there's players out there who drop 40 something creature tokens on one turn. It's happened before. So have fun and try it. Thank you for making this far to the video. These are my last 2 cards that work well with the Endstone. So we got Celestine, the Living Saint, for 4 and a white, 3/4 body, legendary human warrior. She's got flying lifelink. She has the ability Healing Tears. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. Great card for that, just bring back reanimating creatures if you gain enough life to do it. Next up, I really like this card. Mortarion Daemon Premarch. I know I butchered it. It's from Warhammer. Y'all let me know. No problem. Anyway, for 5 and a black, 5/6 body, legendary Demon Premarch. Has flying. Premarch of the Death Guard is his ability. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay X. If you do, create X 2/2 Black Astartes warrior creature tokens with menace. X can't be greater than the amount of life you lost this turn. So if you're at 40 life and you're going down to 20 life, that means you lost 20 life. So you can pay up to 20 mana and put up to 20 2/2s on the battlefield. Now, if you did that, that's amazing, but you probably not. Even 5 2/2s is 10 power on the board. That's pretty good. Pretty good. And these creature tokens come in untapped, and they have menace. So don't underestimate that. Nice end of the turn cycle. So thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you know any other cards that work well with the Endstone, feel free to comment below. It is a busted card. I like to think that these artifacts that come out in every set is always the artifacts that are the most expensive cards. They may not be the best, but they're always expensive because they go in multiple decks, or they just do more than one ability. So thank you for your time. Hit the like button. Make sure you share this video. Helps out the channel. I'm your host, Commander Claw.